Welcome to episode number 291 of the Marine Layer podcast. It's our mega mailbag episode. The vibes are down, and Lyle and I want to hear from you guys and get every question possible answered at this point of the Mariners season. We know you guys have a lot on your mind, and we're here today to answer it.
Your guys' reminder, if you want to stay on top of everything we're doing, it's all over at our website, marinelayerpod.com, where you can find things like our live show schedule, which, by the way, you guys, tomorrow, when you're listening to this on Friday, tomorrow, 4 p.m., Queen Anne Beer Hall, we're doing a watch party for Mariners Braves, but it's also going to serve as an absolute venting session. So if you guys just want to come hang out with us and get thoughts off your chest and just blow off steam, that's what this is for, along with watching the game if you want to. So that is 4 p.m. over at Queen Anne Beer Hall. We'd love to see you there. If you're on our website, you can also go get your merch. We'd love to see you wearing it around. We love seeing it around the park. It's affordable. It's really comfortable and designer, like well designed. So go get your merch too. You can also sign up for our Patreon there. And that's all over at marinelayerpod.com. You can check us out on social media too at marinelayerpod.
Let's get it rolling.
The pitch from Acevedo. A drive deep to right field. Down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1. The dream lives. They're going to the playoffs. 1-1 from Gant. There you go. Left field. We got a tie ball game. Julio. Oh, baby, what a moment. Tie ball game at 7-7.
And we welcome you to this episode of the Marine Layer podcast, part of the Just Baseball Podcast Network. Recording on Thursday evening, September 4th. Lyle, how is the Mariners road trip going?
I'm going to say the same thing that I said on social media on Wednesday night, or really screamed on social media. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, I can sit here and say that anybody wants to hear. Nobody wants to hear any analysis. Nobody wants to hear why this is going wrong. The Mariners have gotten completely and utterly fucking dog walked on this entire road trip. And I will leave it at that. That is all people want to hear, and it's the truth. Dog walked.
One thing I'll say before we open up the mailbag, because we have a lot of questions we want to get to, guys. I wasn't lying when I said mega mailbag at the start of the episode. We have just about every single topic covered in this mailbag, and we will get to all of them, I promise. But here's my perspective on this road trip. Besides all the things on the field, besides the quotes, and we'll get into all of it. Promise you, we'll have plenty of time to weave it in the episode. The Mariners had the opportunity on this road trip to bury the Guardians and bury the Tampa Bay Rays in the wild card race. All you had to do was probably win 2 or 3 in both. Instead, the Mariners are now closer to the Rays and the Guardians in the wild card standings than they are to the Houston Astros in the division. Think of that. Food for thought. It's not a good perspective.
Dog walked. All right, let's get into the mailbag.
We'll start on Patreon, as we always do. Again, remember, guys, if you want priority for our mailbags, patreon.com/marinelayerpod. You get access to ad-free episodes. You can get on a monthly video call with Lyle and I, and right here on these episodes, you can be featured right at the top. Let's start off with Graham, Lyle. Graham asks, do you guys think it might be time for Woodworth to be held accountable for the state of the bullpen and these away pitching performances?
No, I don't. And if the Mariners were to do something like actually get rid of Pete Woodworth, that is a complete scapegoat move. Not only does that whole staff love him, not only is he revered, but the problem is not the pitching coach. Because Pete Woodworth's also been there when they've been at their best. No. The answer is no.
Like last year, when they were at their best.
Mm-hmm.
I would compare this to one thing. If you guys remember when Kevin Seitzer was hired. Kevin Seitzer, in 2023, was the Braves hitting coach. They had a historic offense. They had one of the best offenses in baseball history. They set the record for home runs. They slugged. They hit for average. They got on base. It was amazing. The Braves then had a subpar offensive season in 2024, and the Braves decided not to renew his contract, and that's why he's here in Seattle. You know, things happen year to year that franchises will use as an excuse to move on from somebody, whether or not it's validated. Now, the Mariners could move on from him, but that doesn't mean that solves the problem. I think really it has more to do with pitchers than it has to do with pitching coach, because coaches can really only do so much. One last thing here from Graham. Is this the Mariners pitchers being overhyped because of where they play at home?
You want to say no, but when 2 years in a row the home road splits have looked like this, I'm not saying the answer is yes, but it's hard not to have those thoughts creep into your head in the sense of, are all of these guys, sans Brian Wu, T-Mobile merchants? I hope not. Logan Gilbert I'd probably put closer to the Wu category too, because he was good on the road last year, even though he hasn't been this year. But man, you just wonder about some of the others, and you look at the drastic differences. I'm going to say no, but it's hard not to have those thoughts at least creep into your head.
It's hard to know as long as they're Mariners, because as long as they're Mariners, they're always going to pitch well at home. How do they pitch if they go pitch for a different team and don't get to start all these games in T-Mobile Park? I think that's how I would think about it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next. We got to rip through a lot.
Next question comes from Robert. Why can't Mariners fans have nice things?
We're cursed, Robert. You know that. If you want us to just validate that for you and say the words, the Mariners are cursed. That's why they can't have nice things.
Where do we think the curse originated? Not signing A-Rod, trading Griffey.
Six Stadium?
That's a pretty solid place to start.
That feels like a place where a curse would arise.
It would. The 1969 Seattle Pilots certainly had a lot of things happen to them that could very well resemble a curse. Yep. Go watch the SB Nation documentary if people are unfamiliar with what we're referencing right now. 6 parts on YouTube. It's about 3 hours long. It is really, really good. Next question now comes from Bryson on Patreon. Sup, boys? What are your thoughts on the Mariners team meeting? What does it mean, and what does that tell us about the state of the clubhouse?
Through 2 days, it looks like this team meeting didn't do a damn thing. Because not only did the Mariners lose their next 2, including in embarrassing fashion on Wednesday, but you had multiple quotes come out after that team meeting that just make you sit there and say, geez, that does not sound like people are in the greatest headspace.
I don't know what they talked about in this team meeting. I don't blame them for trying it because team meetings have worked for teams in the past. It's not a guarantee, but it brings people together, and sometimes what everyone needs is a transparent forum. Real life example, Lyle, it's like therapy. Some people need therapy to be better. And this is the Mariners clubhouse version of therapy. But through 2 games, you're right. What it did was it swung the door open when the guys went on after the game and talked, whether it was Wu, whether it was JP, whether it was Cal, whether it was Kirby the night after. Opened the door and showed us exactly what they're thinking in this state. And you can say anything you want, whether it in the clubhouse or whether it to be to the media about fighting and needing to be more resilient and being more locked in and needing to be able to get up off the mat. But if you don't do it, no one believes it. And I'll say it again. I said this in a reaction this morning on Thursday. Mariners have had a lot of quotes come out last few years that they've been missing the playoffs. And they haven't been playing a lot of playoff games. A lot of quotes, not a lot of playoff games.
That's facts. And
it just doesn't land the same when that happens.
Well, and I know you said you want to get into the quotes. This feels like a chance to take a minute or 2 here and do it because it's relevant in this question. The 2 that are going to stand out and the 2 that everybody are talking about are from JP and from Kirby. And if you want to go in chronological order, is this what JP Crawford meant? I don't know. I don't want to misconstrue the guy's words. But when the guy says, and I quote, when we get down, we stay down, maybe he means something different. But to a lot of people, what that sounded like is when this team gets down by a few runs, they quit. And I don't like hearing that. That doesn't sound, that does not sound inspiring. And again, maybe that's not what he meant. Maybe that's not fair. Maybe I'd be sitting here misconstruing his words if I definitively said that's what he meant. So I don't want to 100% do that, but that is what it sounded like.
What's puzzling to me is that hasn't been the case the whole year. When they've got down, they haven't just given up. There's a reason they got in the position they're at. I mean, look at 3 weeks ago. I mean, they're facing the Rays at home where they sweep the Rays. Cal Raleigh steps up to the plate, down by 2 runs against the Rays' newly acquired best reliever. Did they just give up? No. But on this road trip and this cold stretch, yeah, they haven't gotten off the mat. JP can't do anything about the timing, really, because he has no idea what's going to happen the next day. But the fact he says that on Tuesday night, and then the Mariners come out on Wednesday and just get throat stomped by the Rays, like, it's very indicative of everything that's going on right now. And it is not a good look. Yeah, we don't get off the mat. And then you get pushed down onto the mat less than 24 hours later, and the Rays laugh at you.
And then you get to Kirby's after that,
God.
Yeah, so, I mean, kind of pick your poison in terms of these two quotes, because both of them were far, far, far from inspiring. But Kirby hits Josh Lowe in that game. Later on, the Rays retaliate. They hit Canzone because the Rays certainly felt like Kirby did that on purpose. Kirby says it wasn't on purpose. That's what he claims. That did not resonate with the Rays. The Rays did not feel the same way because as a result, they hit somebody on the Mariners as a result. Well, I just said result twice. Sorry. Anyway, then Kirby gets asked about it after the game. And again, when he says, whoops, he says it wasn't, he says it wasn't intentional, but when you read it and then you actually hear the audio of it, because the audio of it was played on the radio here on Thursday morning, like it was played on Brock and Salk when we were on. And I'm going to do this again. George Kirby had a really bad start. I'm sure he was not in a great headspace. I'm sure he's frustrated. I'm sure the whole team's frustrated. So I'm again going to say, do I know this is what he definitively meant? No, and I'm not going to try to misconstrue his words. But if you are asking how the fan perceives what George Kirby said after that, that doesn't sound so great either, because by the tone of his voice and the actual quote, it makes it sound like, oh, either maybe I did do it on purpose, or it wasn't on purpose, but I'm not all that sorry about it. The actual quote is here. He said, and it's from Daniel Kramer. He said, Garv called an inside heater. I tried to throw it in, and I hit him. Whoops. I mean, you can say it's on purpose or whatever, but I mean, I just tried to execute a heater. And again, if he had just stopped before saying whoops, I think people would have just moved past it. I think people would have said, okay, he made a mistake. He hit a guy. It wasn't on purpose. He tried to move past it. But then when you hear him go, whoops, like it didn't sound very sincere. And I'm not saying he hit somebody on purpose, but you are leaving the perception more open to the idea that you did by saying it like that.
The first part, you would have just left people open to their own speculation. The whoops sounded sarcastic. Like you said, I'm pissed off and I don't want to be here right now. Oh, well. It doesn't sound very good. And this is the second time in 3 years that George has started a game in Tampa and had a bad quote that's going to smack him in the butt. And he had a moment that does not reflect very well on him. I mean, look, your team is like struggling and you're getting knocked around, and the response down 6-0 in the second inning is allegedly to throw at somebody. That doesn't, the Rays weren't buying the answer that it wasn't intentional, and neither were the umpires, because they gave out warnings. And the Rays retaliated and threw out Dom Canzone. That was intentional. So, like, that's what it is. And now, again, Kirby, twice in big games, might I add, in September, twice in 3 years, down in Tampa.
And Salk made this point, too. This is my last point. You'll see righties often miss inside, arm side, and accidentally hit a right-handed bat sometimes. But when a right-handed pitcher misses that badly inside, glove side to a lefty, that only makes you scratch your head a little bit more, because you see that a whole lot less than a righty hitting a righty with a fastball.
Yeah. Not a great series down in Tampa, Lyle.
No.
We're only a few questions in.
And again, those two quotes were after that team meeting. Not before, but after.
Doesn't sound like the team meeting achieved very much.
No.
Not their intended goal.
All right.
Let's keep ripping along with these questions. Next one comes from Patrick on Patreon, and Patrick's question is, how do you make sense of the Mariners pitching staff becoming so mortal this season outside of injuries, and why are we so damn bad on the road?
Because T-Mobile Park is the friendliest hitting or pitching environment by far, and then you get into other environments, you're away from where you're comfortable, and the balls are going to fly more. and it becomes a problem. There's no perfect reasoning for this. Unfortunately, we're not scientists, and we can't do a deep dive study on why every single one of these individuals really mentally and physically is so much different on the road than at home. But the easiest answer is you are pitching in much, much less pitching friendly environments, and it's getting to you.
Can I use an example? Do you remember the drop off from 2014 to 2015 with the Mariners bullpen specifically?
It was huge. I mean, the Mariners were on the cover of fucking Sports Illustrated at the start of 2015 because people thought they were going to win it all that year. And a part of the reason was their bullpen was so good. Collapsed.
And then in 2015, when they were the favorites, they collapsed. When you have historic pitching years, expecting them to repeat is a fantasy. It's not something you can do. This team is much more talented pitching staff-wise than that 2014 team was, but that does not mean that you're immune to regression. Honestly, if there's one thing I would point out, it's just that they regressed. It's impossible to be the best version of yourself year over year, and it's impossible for an entire pitching staff to do that. Very difficult.
Although last year they were 18th on the road in ERA, right now they are 26th. That is not good.
Regression. And at home, at least they had a 2.8 ERA as a team.
Right.
Regression.
Yep.
Next question, Lyle, comes from Jordan on Patreon, and Jordan's question is, what are your opinions on the Framber Valdez situation that happened the other night?
That did not look good. The general consensus seems to be he threw at his catcher on purpose and gave him a wrong sign to throw him off. That was not a good look. And Dallas Braden did a nice breakdown on it, too, on Twitter and on social media. And there is a very, very slight nod that Framber gives his catcher Valdez. Or sorry, no, Framber Valdez. That Framber gives his catcher. And as a result, totally crosses him up. And you know what gives it away to me? If they had gotten crossed up and he throws a pitch like that and it hits him and it clearly was miscommunication, you'd see Framber immediately go, he'd hit my chest, he'd hit his chest if you're watching on YouTube, and put his hand up and he'd say, that's my bad, or they go out to the mound and talk about it. No, as soon as Framber threw that pitch and it hit him, he turned right around with a death stare looking back at second base. That did not look like an accident.
And Framber has done this before. Not this specifically, but he's been in a pissy mood sometimes against the Mariners, too. Who I forget exactly who he threw against, but the Mariners a couple years ago were lighting him up and he beans someone on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, that's Framber's personality. He'll get a little pissy on the mound. Mm-hmm. He's a very good pitcher, but he's not immune to blow-ups.
No.
I think the right words for that.
Yeah.
This is the team the Mariners are letting take this division. And by the way, was that reporting credible that I saw after that the clubhouse was pissed at him?
The only reporting I saw after the game was both Framber Valdez and his catcher, whose name is Cesar Salazar, got taken into the office. They were both sat down. Framber apologized but said it wasn't intentional, and there was nothing else after that. But everybody seems to think that's a total load of horse shit because nobody seems to believe him.
Yeah, that's the team the Mariners are letting increase their lead on the division while playing like this.
Well, they also don't have Isaac Paredes, and they didn't have Yordan almost all year, and Altuve's regressed, and they didn't have Pena for a while, and they didn't have Javier for a while, and Yeah. This is the worst Astros team in like a decade, and they are continuing to grow their lead in the AL West.
Josh is wondering what kind of end of the season needs to happen for Dan to get fired so that a real coaching search can happen and a real manager can be hired.
Oh my God, I can't even talk. Maybe I'm just ready to kind of go off here. If they miss the playoffs, I think there's going to be a lot of things on the table. Nothing's for certain. I'm not saying a manager gets canned after 1 year, but I mean, you have seen the deficiencies plenty that have come with this coaching staff and, well, specifically this manager. And maybe it's not even fair to say coaching staff as a whole because there are good pieces of it, like Woodworth, like we talked about, like Seitzer, as we talked about, we think. But man, like you've just seen so many of the Dan Wilson deficiencies throughout a ton of the year. And we've talked about this a lot, you guys. We'll get into a little more Dan Wilson stuff in a bit because there's more questions about it. And maybe we'll dive into more of the actual process behind it. But in terms of what it would take to see him lose the job, they would have to miss the playoffs. And I think Jerry Dipoto would have to get fired because I think Jerry and Dan are essentially tied at the hip. If Jerry's not fired, he will keep Dan. I mean, it always seemed to us, Jerry almost hired Dan to save his job, so to speak. Because there were questions last year that when Service got fired, would Dipoto go with him? But then you hire this quote-unquote franchise legend to come in and be the manager, and you don't do a hiring process. Feels like those two are tied at the hip. So I think Jerry would have to go to have Dan go because you'd have to get a new head of the front office in town, and then you get to hire his own manager.
The end of season that would need to happen is they would have to miss the playoffs. It's not how you miss the playoffs. It's not, oh, we were so close. It is, do you miss the playoffs? Yes or no? If they make the playoffs, everyone's coming back for next year. Whether or not you want it or not, everyone's coming back.
What if they make the playoffs, absolutely limp in as an 83-win third wildcard team, and then I'm going to keep using this saying because we've used it plenty already on this episode, get dog-walked in Houston in both games. They lose 9-1 and 7-2.
This is the Mariners we're talking about. It's going to be a success of a season if they make the playoffs. Maybe not for us, but for them it would be.
They're going to call it a success?
Well, Jerry called the season he missed the playoffs a success before. So,
but to be fair, that year they at least won 88 games. This year they would have won 83 and then got boat raced out of the playoffs before you could even blink.
If they're playing playoff games, they will bring everybody back and they'll say it's a successful season. That's what they want. Just get in.
I mean, okay.
We might get into
more, we might get into more Dan Wilson stuff later, and we will, because other people have plenty of questions about it. But I think it is fair to say Jerry and Dan are basically tied at the hip, right?
100%.
Jerry would have to go for Dan to go.
If Jerry comes back next year, then Dan Wilson will be your manager next year because he's under contract for next year, regardless of if they fire him or not. So,
and that hire always made it kind of seem like it was a little bit of a human defense shield. That's what it seemed like to us, at least.
Next question comes from Search for Honor. This is on YouTube. He says, who on this current Mariners roster over the offseason is on the untouchable list?
This is a good question. All right, now we're going to start to really rip through these. We gave the Patreon members a little bit of extra time on these questions because we appreciate you guys. We love the questions you always send. Now on these others, we're really going to try to rip through. Okay, untouchables. Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, Brian Wu, Logan Gilbert. I mean, you'd think somebody, I mean, maybe that's it. I was going to say somebody like Cole Young, but I guess if you really thought that you were going to find some other second baseman out there, it's possible. I don't think there's any other second baseman you're really going to find.
You forgot one.
Oh, did I? Who am I?
Ben Williamson. That is the list. The list you just laid it. Yeah. Logan, Wu, Cal, Julio. That's it.
What about the two back-end bullpen guys, Brash and Munoz?
Untouchable? No.
Okay.
Most likely off the table, yes. Untouchable? No.
Okay. Yep.
As we've seen, bullpens are frugal.
Yep. Fickle.
Year to year.
Yep.
Eh.
All right, let's keep going.
Next question. Is there an honest possibility that the Mariners are cheating at home? This comes from Max on YouTube. Is there an honest possibility the Mariners are cheating at home, starting to think that this team has gotten desperate and had to resort to drastic measures?
See, here we go. I tweeted out that you guys brought it with these questions, and our Patreon members obviously do a great job, and they send really thoughtful questions. But when we say we took about 40 questions to read on this episode, it stems from all places of the earth in the Mariners sphere. So I'm serious. Like, we are going to answer some wild questions on this show. Are the Mariners cheating at home? I'm going to go with no, but you know what? Here's what we always say here on the Great Old Marine Layer Pod. We don't tell people how to fan. If you want to cook up conspiracies, you can believe whatever you want to believe for why this team's winning at home.
I don't think they've been cheating at home. I'll say for sure we have not heard any trash can banging at T-Mobile Park. That I will say for certain as we were there. And we walked through the hallways. So if there was a trash can, I think we'd see one. Mm-hmm. So I'll say that for certain. Here's a banger of a question, Lyle. Ready? I know this is one of our favorite types of questions to answer here on this podcast, sarcastically. Should the Mariners acquire Trevor Bauer for the league minimum this offseason?
And now you've made me go to the opposite end of the pendulum. I just sat here and said all the great questions that people sent in. Look, guys, this is the Mega Mailbag. We have sadly gotten this question way too many times this year in our DMs, in these mailbags, too many places. So we are going to answer this one time, and this is going to be the last time. I'm not saying all you asked this question, but there are too many people that we're going to shut this down. No, the Mariners will never, ever be signing Trevor Bauer. Not only is he not a good human being, but he is getting torched every other day in Japan, of all places. At one point this season, he was sent down to the minor leagues in Japan. He will not be pitching for the Seattle Mariners, ever, and nor should he, ever.
Well said, Lyle.
You got anything to add?
I think the Mariners probably have 15 pitchers in their organization who are better than Trevor Bauer right now. By the way, guys, once they banned Spider Tack, wasn't that good?
No,
and he's in his upper 30s now. Come on.
Yeah, I think mid 30s, but the point being,
I think he's 36.
That almost sounds too old. Point being, he's not good anymore. And guys, he is genuine. He is not a good
There's
person.
no way he's good enough to be worth the headache.
No
way.
He's not a good person, and he is a PR disaster for any team that would even think about bringing him on. So after all the ridiculous times we've been asked that question, we finally answered it here. I hope that really does it in, and people can let it go now. Stop asking us.
Thank you for the
Yes, usually we're open to all questions. We got to stop with that question.
Thank you for the question, Tyler. Next question comes from Thomas. Simple. Will the Mariners make the playoffs?
I'm going to say yes. None of the other teams around them are that good, but they are not making it easy. I do not say yes with wholehearted confidence, but I do say yes.
I will say they get in as the third wild card.
Yeah.
But that's because the other teams they're fighting with also kind of stink. Like the Astros, kind of stink. Royals, kind of stink. Guardians, one of the worst offensive teams in baseball. The Rays, when they play someone else, I'm sure they'll go back to being the sub-500 team they were before the Mariners started playing them. So yeah, I'll say the Mariners make it. But they're not going to make it very easy. And it's not going to be painless from Lyle and I.
No. It sure wasn't this week.
Riley on Instagram, Lyle, asks, is it time we have a conversation about Edward Bizzardo being the best reliever in the bullpen?
No, he's a good reliever. I think we could have a conversation about Gabe Spire being the best reliever in the bullpen. I think Edward Bizzardo has been valuable this year. I don't think he's the best reliever in the bullpen, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's solid. Solid is the way I would put Edward Bizzardo. At the end of the day, he would be the fourth to sixth best reliever in most bullpens in baseball.
Yeah.
And that's how you should view him.
Right.
We have some Seahawks questions.
Oh, good. People are done with the Mariners and want to talk football.
Well, must have been from the video you tweeted out.
Yeah, that could be.
During Wednesday's game. The questions are, I'll package these two together. One comes from Vinny, will the Seahawks win 9+ games? Two comes from Case and Kent. And this is, are the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl this year?
They will not be winning the Super Bowl, unfortunately. Can they win 9 or more games? Absolutely. I don't think anybody in the national media has given them much of a chance to, because the narrative seems to be, oh, they lost Geno, they lost DK, and as a result, they're going to be bad. No, I don't think they're going to be bad. I think they're going to be pretty frisky. I think they're going to be competitive. I think Mike McDonald's defense is going to be really good in year 2. The question is obviously going to be, does the offensive line hold up? And can Sam Darnold repeat to some level of what he did last year? But yes, they'll be in the playoff hunt. I believe that. I don't think they're winning the Super Bowl. But if you were to tell me they'll win 10 games this year, yeah, I'd believe that.
I think they're a 10-win football team. The defense alone is going to be worth 10 wins.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the offense is just going to be good enough. And I'm excited to watch the receivers. And it's going to be really hard for the offensive line to be worse than what they were last year. So we have that to look forward to, too.
And apparently John Benton, the new offensive line coach, is revered. Apparently he's supposed to be really good, and apparently they felt the presence already in camp. So hopefully that really makes a difference.
Imagine if you went back to this time last year and you said Ryan Grubb and Scott Huff would be awful.
That would really
I don't think
suck.
anyone would believe you.
No, not at all. But here we are.
Well, I'm glad we got the Seahawks question. Thank you for those guys. Next question comes from Parker, and Parker's question is for you, Lyle. Who frustrates you the most on this Mariners team?
His role's been diminished as of late, but overall for the year, it's been Carlos Vargas. You cannot throw 100 miles an hour and strike out 5 hitters per 9 and not have good command. It's maddening at times. And I'm sure he's a nice dude, but to watch his outings is often extremely maddening because there's actually points where he looks solid, but then there's points where it's a disaster. And the amount that Dan Wilson deploys him throughout the year is what makes it doubly maddening. If Carlos Vargas was the 8th guy in this bullpen, I wouldn't care. It is more about how he's deployed and when he's used that drives me up a wall.
I don't even know if I have an answer to this question. I want it to be different than yours.
Oh, because you're in this Vargas boat too.
But I am in the Vargas boat. It is very annoying. They've gotten rid of all the position players who really annoy me. Demo was very frustrating to watch. Solano for most of the season was frustrating to watch. Who else am I missing? I think
Rowdy
that's
at times. Rowdy at times.
At least Rowdy hit dingers.
Leody
Taveras. Oh my god.
I mean,
there's no reason
dude,
that guy should be that bad.
Dude, when you talk about flushing $4 million down a drain, that is holding your foot on the flusher and just holding it down with all your might for 60 seconds or more, making sure every dollar figure goes through that plumbing system. Because when you talk about flushing $4 million down a drain, that is what they did with that.
I'm curious. I'm going to check something here really quick. Leody Taveras is still the least valuable Mariner to play this year, and he played in 28 games.
Again,
least valuable for the entire season.
Foot on the flusher lever of the toilet. Just foot on the lever, flushing that money down the drain.
Before we get to this next question, do you want to read an ad?
I do. It's from our friends at Pagach's Pub 85, because guess what, guys? In the midst of all this, that is a great spot to go hang out and watch games, hang out with your friends. Now there's football going. Clearly people want to talk about the Seahawks. Maybe you want a place to watch the Seahawks. And the Mariners, too. You can go over there. Pagach's Pub 85. There's awesome food. There's games in that place. There's 20 TVs, so you can watch all the sports you want. And there's happy hour deals from 2 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. That's $3 and $4 drinks. Yeah, awesome deals, you guys. Super, super customer-friendly deals. $3 to $4 drinks, 2 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. That's all over at Pagach's Pub 85 in Kirkland.
Colton is wondering, Lyle, should we be worried about Josh Naylor's consistency?
Dude, he has not hit a lick on the road with the Mariners. The narrative, when you talk about altering narratives in the Mariners verse over the last few weeks, the Naylor one's gotten a little more interesting. It went from, you can't let this guy leave town under any circumstance, to, can this guy put a bat to ball on the road? It's crazy. He is, like he said, he loves hitting in T-Mobile Park, and the success has backed it up, but on the road, different ball game.
And this has been not just a Mariner thing for him. For the season, he's at an 80 WRC plus on the road. For his career, it is, let's see, in his career, he has had some good years and he's had some average years. The last 2 years on the road, though, Lyle, he's been a below league average hitter. And while his peak on the road was 22 and 23, the last 2 years have plummeted mightily after that. So it's kind of been this big swing around the 100 numbers. First 3 seasons he was average. The next 2 seasons he was great. And then these 2 seasons he's been bad. That's puzzling. Baseball's a funny game. There might not be one rhyme or reason why Josh Naylor is not good on the road. Like, you couldn't point to something and say, this is why he's not hitting. Because you compile all those numbers up, you probably get about a 100 WRC plus or a little bit above on the road for his career, which is probably what you want.
Yeah. Again, this team has somehow had a better record when they had Rowdy Tellez, Ben Williamson, Dylan Moore, Donovan Solano out there than when you have Naylor and Gino out there. I don't know how that makes any sense in any world, but that's what's happened.
And I think that there's some questions along those lines of thinking later on here in this mailbag. But let's get to the next one. This comes from Kai, and Kai's wondering, do the Mariners switch up the lineup after this shit show series?
Feels like they should a little bit. I loved the lineup when it got changed and they altered it to have Randy hit leadoff, but they haven't changed it one bit at all at any point. It feels like at some point you got to try something else.
What would you change? What would we even think to change it to?
Could you move Julio back to the 2 spot for a little bit with the way he's been hitting?
2 spot. What if we move Julio back to the leadoff spot?
Could do that.
Just get him up there as much as possible, like they used to do in the past.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious here. I'm trying to see what Randy is doing specifically in the leadoff spot. See if it'll get there before we get to our next question. So, like, Randy in the leadoff spot, I generally thought is a good idea. Like, overall, in my mind, it makes sense. But lately, I mean, he's just been really struggling. Yeah, as a leadoff hitter, Randy right now is sitting at a 659 OPS. Maybe you do move him out of the leadoff spot and you try something. The idea of the lineup looks good, but the execution of it lately has been awful. Mm-hmm. And they haven't scored. And it's not been good enough. So, yeah, maybe you do shake it up. They did in the past. They moved Julio when he stunk down to the 6 hole. Maybe try that with Randy. Jorge Polanco, by the way, Lyle, crushing it lately. Maybe move Polo up from the 6 or 7 hole. Okay. Next question comes from Brian. Talk about good questions. Why is the rotation a bunch of wimps? We told the people to fire away.
And they fired away. I hate to break it to you, Brian. I don't think this rotation's a bunch of wimps. I think they are very dependent on their home ballpark as of right now, and the numbers reflect that.
I'm with you there. I don't think relying on a home ballpark makes you a wimp. I also don't know Brian's definition of a wimp. He could have a different definition of a wimp than you or I. But I just think they really like pitching in T-Mobile Park, and sometimes away from there, their strategy to attack hitters does not work as well. Their stuff doesn't play as well, and they get knocked around. And overall this year, they've just not been as good. And sometimes when you're not as good, you get hit around. It stinks. So that's how I'd view it.
Yeah.
This is a question for you, Lyle. This comes from Alexandra on Instagram. The question is, does Lyle have a girlfriend?
No. I'm married to the game, like Future said. Next.
It's good to know. Everyone got their answer. Lyle is an available bachelor. So to all of you listening, go hit him up. Okay, next question
isn't
comes...
Isn't our listenership like very, very heavily slanted toward a male audience?
It is, but that doesn't mean it's 100%. It's not.
It's not 100%.
No.
Anyway.
So maybe there's a chance.
No. Married to the game. Anyway, we can move on.
Anyways, Fiona on Instagram asks, how do other teams compare with missed opportunities with the bases loaded as the Mariners do?
Say that one more time.
How do other teams in baseball compare to the Mariners when it comes to missed opportunities with the bases loaded?
Oh, well, I got a great answer for you on this. Shout out to Salk for digging this up and talking about it on Thursday here on the radio. The Mariners with runners in The Mariners with runners in scoring position this season rank 30th in batting average. Usually we would never use batting average on this podcast, but when there's runners in scoring position, you need to get hits and drive the runs in. Runners in scoring position, the Mariners have the lowest batting average in Major League Baseball this season. So to answer your question, Everybody's better than the Mariners at capitalizing on opportunities.
Let's see if I can get bases loaded specifically.
But the runners in scoring position is telling. 30.
It is. Yeah, here we go. Bases loaded. Let's check on where the Seattle Mariners rank here. So, as a team this year, they are with the bases loaded. So they're 19th in average. I'm not looking at WRC Plus. I literally refuse to look at WRC Plus as a team because it straight up lies. Do you want to tell while I examine these further, like the WRC Plus difference, while the Mariners are 30th in batting average between them and the other teams?
Doesn't it say the White Sox are 20% better than the Mariners?
Worse.
Oh, 20% worse. I'm sorry.
Like, they're worse offensively, but it's like the Mariners are ranked below the White Sox in average. The slash lines aren't that much different, but because the Mariners play at T-Mobile Park, they are 20% better offensively than the White Sox, despite the fact they both just don't score runs with runners in scoring position. It's like, how does that make sense?
Again, we've said this a lot over the last year. I'm out on Team WRC Plus. For individuals, might be the best stat in baseball. For a team, and specifically for your Seattle Mariners, I will not read into it ever anymore because it lies. Like you said, it straight up tells you lies. Because as Foolish Baseball told us when he was on the podcast with us last year, and he's right, you don't actually have to hit very well in T-Mobile Park for your Team WRC Plus to be respectable.
The Mariners are 15th in the league in OPS with the bases loaded. So they're a middling to bottom third team with the bases loaded.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep going. We still got a lot of questions.
It's not great, but could be worse if you take that any sort of positive way. Mike is wondering, if Dan Wilson comes back next year as manager, how much of his current staff do you think he will retain, or will there be significant changes?
I don't think much would change.
Nothing at all?
What would you change?
Well, I guess let me ask you this question. Is there going to be a scapegoat?
There seems to be a lot of that, doesn't there? It's been...
I would say no, there's not going to be a scapegoat. If they make the playoffs. Dan Wilson comes back if the Mariners make the playoffs. Given the Mariners operate with some common sense and wins and losses and what matters. Dan Wilson comes back. I think his coaching staff does too. I don't think they would scapegoat anyone.
Probably not.
Because what is Jerry going to come in over him and fire the pitching coach and not do anything to Dan? Probably not.
Well, they're not going to do anything to Edgar.
No. So, yeah, no, I don't think anything would change. This is how the organization runs.
Again, Brant Brown was scapegoated, DeHart, Service. Like there's a lot of scapegoats, but maybe it's different now with Dan Wilson.
And we just take this from the personality we get of Dan Wilson. I don't know what Dan's like behind closed doors, but doesn't seem like the type of guy that's just going to go and fire somebody just because.
I mean, front offices and managers usually work in lockstep on roster decisions. This is the same manager who had something to do, if not everything to do, something, because it was not nothing, something to do with Dylan Moore hanging around the roster until the end of August. Again, we'll say it again. Dylan Moore OPS 130 against left-handed pitching for 3 straight months.
This is from Mitchell Lyle. Dan related. Dan won't be the only reason the Mariners miss the playoffs, but he'll be the outlying reason why the Mariners miss the playoffs. True or false?
False, because ultimately what this will boil down to is the players did not play well enough. Now, I will say, I wholeheartedly believe there is a lot of blame to go around in this franchise if they miss the playoffs. Dan is certainly going to take blame. The owners are certainly going to take blame. But ultimately, it will be about the players not playing well enough. Because
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. The final 2 months, you have a good roster on the field. The players do have to play well enough to get in. There is other blame to go around. Don't get us wrong. But it's on the players. Mostly, it is on the players.
And you can say, if your take could be, I could hear a take that you, to the bottom of your heart, believe it is part of the manager's job to motivate the players to play better. That's fine. But I know players in the clubhouse also share a huge responsibility of doing that. And if the leadership in that clubhouse can't do that, then that is on the players.
Yeah.
There's only so much the coaching staff can do, whether it comes to hitting better, pitching better, or motivating guys in the clubhouse. At some point, the players have to be willing to go do it.
How much motivating is going on in that clubhouse from the coaching staff, though? Or from Dan Wilson specifically? Because again, what we get from the players and what's out there publicly is they love playing for Dan Wilson. So great. First and foremost, you need player buy-in. I understand that. But this analogy has been thrown out on Twitter. I think it was by our friend Ty Dane Gonzalez, so just to give him proper credit. He tweeted, do they truly love playing for Dan Wilson and get fired up to play for Dan Wilson? Or do they view him as a substitute teacher with that type of energy, where it's do what you want?
Hopefully we'll know the answer to that question one day.
Right. Because substitute teachers do not get up and fire up a classroom. I can tell you that.
Oh, kids like it because you don't have to do work that day.
You can get,
and
you can get away with a lot.
And when it gets down to the nitty-gritty, that's where it comes back to the focus aspect and being totally locked in at this point of the season. If you're not someone's not holding you accountable to that, then it does reflect on them. So Good question. This one comes from next question comes from Gucci Crocs, and the question is, what are the chances of keeping Gino and Josh Naylor next year?
I think there's a pretty decent chance you keep one. I don't know about both. I think Gino's market will be somewhat popular just because of the year he's going to have. Now, I don't think anybody's giving him some 6-year deal, but I think his market in the range of a 3-year deal will be popular, and the Mariners may not outbid all those teams for that 3-year deal. Naylor, I think they probably view as the guy most important to bring back, although, again, we got to see how he does the rest of the year because he's not hitting right now, especially on the road. But the other flip side of that coin is the Mariners don't have a first baseman.
Yeah,
they don't.
What are you doing next year?
That's how you end up rolling out Miles Mastroboni to play first base. I don't know.
Or Ben could go play first.
Well, he can't do that. He's Brooks Robinson at third.
That's a fair point. I would say there's a 50% chance of signing one of them.
Yeah.
I'd feel confident they will make an offer to one of them given they're playing here. I think they think the same thing about Randy, even if some of the fans aren't fully on board with that. So we'll see.
With re-signing Randy?
Yeah, you don't think they would make Randy a market deal offer for short term?
Well, one, he's still got another year left, so he's not a free agent yet. But two, he's a Boris guy.
I'm not saying sign an extension. I'm saying the next offseason.
Depends on what his market is.
It depends. I would think, if they can get a good deal on Randy, they would take it.
Okay.
He's a good player.
Yeah.
Because then I would ask you who's playing if Randy's not.
Well, they need to go sign Kyle Tucker this winter.
If they sign Kyle Tucker, I will wish Randy well wherever he goes.
Well, if they sign Kyle Tucker this winter, you get all three of them. Tucker, Julio, Randy. You can keep Randy.
Yeah, you could.
You know I wasn't going to get through this podcast without dropping that name. Sign Kyle Tucker, sign Kyle Tucker, sign Kyle Tucker. All right, next question.
There's no Kyle Tucker questions, by the way.
Well, that's sad. You didn't. Then people didn't bring it enough.
Colin wants to know, Lyle, what is one place you would want to travel other than the World Series?
I mean, a lot of these will probably be centered around baseball because I think going to some of these different locations for the WBC would be cool. To go to the Tokyo Dome in Japan seems really cool. But if you want me to get away from baseball, probably one of these tropical vacation places where you just get to just hang out in these crazy luxury type resorts for a while. I'd probably say if money's not an object and you can go wherever you want, probably like Bora Bora.
It'll get you in an all-inclusive resort.
Yeah, dude, have you
It'll
seen
be
how
perfect
nice
for you.
Have you seen how nice places like Bora Bora are? It's crazy.
Yeah.
That water is crystal clear.
That's perfect for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Be great.
I have a long list. I'll just say Italy to pick one.
Yeah, for those who want to peek behind the curtain, I get to hear from TJ on the regular how much he's dying to go to Europe and hasn't been able to go. He wants to
That's
go
our
really
motivation for this podcast, to be as successful as possible so I can fund my trips abroad.
bad. Especially to Europe.
And then I'll do a podcast from like a deck with a glass of wine in one hand and like focaccia in the other. Oh.
From the Amalfi Coast?
Sure. That sounds great.
Great.
Staring out at the ocean.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds perfect. Okay, Jay on Instagram wants to know, how much do coaches put in to the culture of a team?
Matters a lot. I don't buy into how much coaches really have to do with getting their players in season to like have success or not have success. I've never really bought into how much hitting coaches really do or don't do. I just don't think it's this crazy role that they play. And that's not a Kevin Seitzer thing. That's just hitting coaches across baseball in general for a long time. These players all have their own private swing coaches in the offseason. They're working on all these different things. I just don't think hitting coaches are like the most invaluable piece of a coaching staff. But in terms of culture, yeah, coaches have to set it. Because if it's bad, your players aren't going to buy in.
You have to set a standard. The culture, I think, is upheld throughout the season by the players. Because if you have leaders who buy into the culture, they hold other players accountable to that level and that standard, and that resonates throughout the clubhouse. But the manager, say in spring training, sets it then. Here's how, especially a first-year manager, here's how we're doing it. This is the line I draw for things. Follow it, or you're out of here. Like that. Whether you say it nicely or you say it as blunt as I did, that's what you got to do. Because otherwise, if we want to bring back the substitute teacher analogy, people goof off, they don't listen, they don't pay attention, the details aren't there, the focus isn't there, and eventually when it matters most, you fall apart. For a lot of this year, I can't say that's how the Mariners looked. But we're not referencing the whole year. We're referencing how they looked in the last couple of weeks, I would think.
Yeah.
Next question on Instagram. I'm sorry, I can't read the username, but the question is, what's wrong with putting Gino at DH and start Ben, quote, I was crushing it, end quote, Williamson?
Again, guys, let us just preface this with this on Ben Williamson. He plays a role. If he was up here right now, he'd have a role on the team because he's a really good defender. He could come off the bench late, take over for Gino if they're winning in the ninth inning for some defense. Yeah, like he would have a role. And Ben Williamson played a nice role for the team. But there's more work for him to do offensively to become a truly like what's the right word? A
serviceable?
No, that's not right because he was a serviceable third baseman this year as a rookie. He to become a truly, I'm blanking on the word. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too pissed off to have a good vocabulary in my head right now. But for Ben Williamson, I'll just say this: to be a 2.5 win third baseman,
3-win player.
Yeah, 3-win third baseman. He's got to do more with the bat. Anyway, yes, you could do that. You could move Gino to DH and bring Ben back up if you thought that was going to provide more value than Gino's doing right now at third base, because Gino's value is pretty much all on his bat at this point. He's not playing great defense. That being said, I don't think Ben Williamson's bat is in a place where it's good enough to be in this lineup every day the way it's structured.
And when Ben was at the big league level, he was not crushing it. He was hitting .250, but he was about 25% below league average as a hitter.
Yeah.
It was not doing well. Power wasn't there. Walks weren't there. But I will say this. In Tacoma right now, he just won Mariners Minor League Hitter of the Month. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So he's clearly doing some things now that is working a little bit better at AAA. Can't promise it's going to bring it up to the big league level. I do think Ben Williamson at some point before the season ends should be on this team because I believe that makes the team better than having Harry Ford up here.
Well,
there are scenarios where having Harry Ford works, but I see more scenarios where having Ben Williamson works a little bit better.
Well, let's just stay on that topic because we have a question on that we haven't gotten to. It's from Young Switcha 206 on Instagram. He says, why is Harry Ford not playing? Honestly, I can't believe we took this long to get to this question. Dude, what the fuck? It was a blowout on Wednesday, and all those starters are still in the game, including at catcher. Harry Ford is nowhere to be found. What are we doing here?
I don't know. That is one of the few scenarios where you clearly see playing time for Harry Ford. We were walking through this before we started recording. When would Harry Ford play? Okay, number one, Harry Ford would play when you have a lineup like you had on Wednesday with Cal DHing and Garver catching. So you can, if you want to take Garver out of the game and have a better matchup than Garver against a righty where he's been awful, you can put Harry Ford in at catcher and pinch hit a lefty when Garver comes to the plate. I want to give Mike Salk a shout out for that, because when I said on Wednesday's episode, no room for Harry, he said wrong, there is room for Harry. And okay, so there's that scenario, one specific scenario where there's room for Harry Ford. Unless they want him to start, which again, doesn't really seem like they want him to start, and in a playoff chase, you'd probably want your two catchers who caught more starting anyways. He's not going to start, and they're not going to give other guys time off because he's on the roster. Then, yeah, I don't know why he's on the roster. Doesn't make sense.
No, I don't have an answer either. That role, speaking of Ben Williamson, would be much better fitted to have Ben up here right now if you're not going to play Harry Ford, because what you can do with Ben Williamson at the bare minimum is when you are up late in games, put him in the game as a defensive replacement for Gino and have him make sure that no balls are going to get by and that the defense is as locked down as it can be. That if Harry's not going to play at all, Ben Williamson has a much more valuable role to the team right now. Because to your point, like you said this week on other podcasts, is development important? Yes. Is being around the big league clubhouse important? Yes. But this year, 2025, September of 2025, is about winning baseball games and trying to win the World Series. If you have a guy up here just to like sit and observe, and that's taking up a roster spot, that's not doing anything.
And they've already had too many guys on this roster sitting and observing this season.
Yep.
Don't need any more.
No.
For once, would like all 26 players on the roster to be used.
Yeah.
Because they have a role.
In this case, 28, but yes.
Yes. Brady wants to know, how do you all not commit crimes after watching all of these losses on the road?
Willpower, baby.
Mental strength. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to commit a felony. I'm not going to commit a felony. I'm not going to commit a felony. I'm not going to do it. Mariners are important. They're not that important.
People sent questions this week. They really did. Wow. How many more do we have, by the way?
We have a few more. How many more do you want to do? We have probably too many. How many more do you want to do?
We're getting close to an hour. Like, is it 5 more or is it more?
Sure. Let's go through 5 more quickly.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, how about this? Oh, this is a good one. If, and a big if, the Mariners are for sale, and this is from Drop Dead on Twitter, how aggressive do you think new ownership would be adding money to this roster moving forward? And you think new ownership should give Jerry and co. a chance to cook with better ingredients?
It's impossible to answer that question because who's going to be the owner? Are they going to hire somebody extremely cheap who's got no interest in baseball? Or is it going to be somebody like Steve Ballmer? Which, by the way, that guy has no issues trying to go all out to win. And this week, that has been very, very apparent in the news. Steve Ballmer stops at nothing to try and win for his team. All the more reason, and maybe this is fucked up, when I saw that Steve Ballmer thing this week with Kawhi, that honestly only made me like who he is even more. It's like, wow, that guy wants to win.
If I'm guessing a blanket owner, I'm going to say yes, they should be adding money onto the roster. It doesn't need to be the world's largest amount. They just need to make moves to go win games. That's it. That's what you need to do. As long as you're sitting there and you're trying to win baseball games every offseason by investing in your roster and make winning moves, that's all we want. That's literally all we want. Should they give Jerry and company a chance to cook with better ingredients? No. If there's a new owner, I'm assuming they want their own guys. And they're not going to let Jerry and co. go around. Especially if they miss the playoffs. Again, I don't think there's a reason if they miss the playoffs, even with all the good moves they made at the deadline, If they miss again, whether or not they deserve it or not, maybe not. Maybe not, because they made the right moves. They probably are just going to go with other people.
Be one playoff appearance in 10 years.
Yeah, and just hard to sell that to anybody.
And in that playoff appearance, you won no games in the ALDS.
Right.
You won a wild card series.
This next question, Lyle, is right up your alley. Hate to be the one asking hard-hitting questions, but Lyle, do you ever throw banana slices onto your PB&Js? If not, you should.
It's a good question. I don't. I do like bananas. I usually do not put them on my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. PB&Js are reserved for PB&Js, but would I eat bananas? Yes. Would I consider a peanut butter and banana sandwich at some point if maybe I'm out of jelly one day or I really, really am in the mood to shake it up? Sure. I like peanut butter and banana sandwiches are good. People will eat those. I just usually keep PB&Js for PB&Js. When I say I look forward to my PB&J every day, I do.
Bananas are so subtle, though. Like, you get a nice little texture, you get a little hint of banana, but it wouldn't ruin the sandwich. It would still taste just like a PB&J.
So it's peanut butter and jelly and bananas.
Yeah.
All right, maybe I'll give that a shot at some point, just for you guys.
I think it would be maybe you would never turn back. Maybe you'd go to Costco and start buying up all the bananas so you can keep up with your one sandwich a day.
Sure.
Or maybe you'll even go 2 a day at some point.
Don't tempt me. Don't make me Luke Stevenson.
Next question comes from Foolberry. So 3 more questions, including this one. Did I'll frame it as this: good vibes kill the clubhouse resilience?
Oh,
meaning,
boy.
Did they lose their edge?
When questions came from all spheres of the Mariners verse today, they really did. Did good vibes only ruin the clubhouse? No, having Gino back and saying good vibes only did not ruin the clubhouse. Unfortunately, if you were sitting here looking for our answer to be yes and have some hot take on that, I think you, for this one, came to the wrong place. Gino being back has done nothing but good things for the Mariners and in that clubhouse. It's just that they're not playing well right now. I don't think good vibes only ruin the edge.
Even if it did, I don't know how we'd prove it. Like, you can say the win-loss record, but things are just coincidences a lot.
Also,
there's a difference between correlation and causation.
Also, let's say the level of satisfaction you were at with edge on the Mariners was in the right place before the trade deadline. Even if you believe that by getting Gino, somehow good vibes only takes away some of your edge, doesn't it level out by having Josh Naylor here, of all people, the big grumper who looks satisfied 0% of the time? Shouldn't it level out?
You'd think.
Yeah.
Nice little balance.
Yeah.
Yin and yang.
Yes.
Next question. This is a good one. This comes from Jefferson on Twitter, and his question is, if the M's miss the playoffs, is it time for a total youth movement in Seattle? Other than Cal and Julio and select pitchers, is it time to just retool every position? Ryan Bliss, Cole Young, Leo Rivas, Ben Williamson, Samad Taylor. Then you have Colt Emerson and Johnny Farmelo, and on and on and on. What do you think?
I don't think you'd see a youth movement with Bliss and Rivas and Samad Taylor. Would you eventually see Colt Emerson and Laz Montez in 2026? Yeah. Would Cole Young already be here? Yeah. Could Farmelo be here in 2027? Yeah. And that'd be a youth movement. I don't think it would be with Samad Taylor and Leo Rivas, but I think you could see some of these prospects really start to get their avenue to playing time if that's the route they went.
The only way I'm okay with that scenario, as excited as I am for those guys, is if they fire everybody. That's it. That's the only reason. Because like a new front office comes in, it's like, I don't want any of these guys. I want my own guys in here. Understandable. Totally. Get it. But doing a youth movement, as fun as that could be, to see these guys up at the big league level, is waving the white flag at next year. Correct. And I have no interest in doing that. We've waved the white flag enough. 49 seasons, 5 playoff appearances. Plenty of white flags. Not doing it again. Not by choice.
Yeah, I agree. What is our final question in the mega mailbag?
Let's finish up with the Gino one. Was Gino just overperforming in Arizona, or is he severely underperforming now?
Well, his last couple weeks have been better. I will say he was hitting really well at Chase Field, a hitter-friendly park, and not great everywhere else. I don't think I think he's been better in the last couple weeks, and I think the move was great when they made it, and it will be great forever. They didn't have to give up a crazy package to go get him. But did he benefit from hitting at Chase Field? Sure. Yeah. His numbers were a lot better there.
So you'd say overperforming?
Maybe a little bit. Again,
Yeah.
I think...
That's how I read that.
I think he was going to have a good year regardless. But sure, Chase Field helped. Let me look at his Savant page.
He would have hit 30. So if he's overperforming, say he would have hit for the season closer to his 2022 total, where he's around, let's say, 34 home runs.
Yeah.
Instead of perhaps he finishes this year at 47.
Although when you look at the expected home runs by park, that's what I was going to look at for Gino. Had he played in Seattle all year, it says he would hit 43. If he had played in, what's another hitter's park? Citi Field with the Mets, he'd be at 40.
Well, it's not to say it's cheap home runs. It's just the overall hitting environment, how he sees the ball, how the ball moves out of the pitcher's hand. I don't think it's as simple as just looking at the parks.
Yeah, that's probably
from
right.
A distance perspective.
Yes, I'm sure playing in Chase Field helped.
Right.
I also think 100 out of 100 times they still should have made that trade for Gino.
Maybe the reality of it is his hottest stretch of the year is behind him and was in Arizona. And the Mariners just wouldn't get that. And that's fine, because guys have that. But just you understood that when you traded for him, and we brought that up and talked about that on here when the idea of trading for him came up. He's a streaky guy. Maybe his hottest streak had already happened. That's why his value is so high.
Yeah. Fair. It's all fair. Well, that was quite the mailbag, I must say.
That is a record. That probably won't be broken unless, the Mariners hit rock bottom again.
That was really fun, though. Again, we wanted to give you guys a voice, answer your questions, and you guys brought it, man. You guys sent a ton of questions. We seriously tried to get to as many as we possibly could. Hopefully we got to yours. If we didn't, you can always send it for another mailbag. We do them every Friday. So keep sending them. And if you want priority, if you want to guarantee it's going to get answered, you can go sign up for our Patreon and send your mailbag questions there. So shout out to all you guys. Here is to the Mariners turning it around this weekend in Atlanta when they face Chris Sale, Hurston Waldrop, and Spencer Strider. But here's to turning it around.
And know where you can go watch that? You can come to Queen Anne Beer Hall Saturday at 4 o'clock and come watch with us. Come vent, come win some prizes. It's going to be a fun time, guys.
Yeah, if we didn't get to your mailbag question and you're in the area, come on out to Queen Anne Beer Hall on Saturday at 4 p.m. And anything you want to ask us, anything you want to vent about, that's what we're there for. And if we did answer your mailbag question, still come out to the event because it's going to be a blast. And we just want to hang out with fans and talk ball and hear where everybody's at. Because, again, we're all going through it. So if you need a spot to vent, we are happy to do that. By the fans, for the fans. That's us here at the Marine Layer Pod. So
see you guys Saturday.
Yes, see you guys Saturday, and that's why we did this mailbag. We are by the fans, for the fans. So shout out to all you guys. All right, that just about wraps up this edition of the Marine Layer Podcast. You guys know the drill. If you want to listen to the full-form podcast, you can do so wherever you get your audio pods. Please make sure to download. Please make sure to rate and review 5 stars. It really does help if you do. If you're on YouTube, like, comment, and please hit the subscribe button. That's the best way to support the channel is by hitting subscribe. Everything's over at our website, marinelayerpod.com, which includes live show schedule, merch. Go get your merch. Again, perfect time for fall merch, for summer merch. Perfect season to go get your merch, and we love seeing people wear it. So go get it, marinelayerpod.com, and you can find us across social media at marinelayerpod. That's TJ. I'm Lyle. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.